I'm the music god CJ playing. This is the Noize Report. You know what we do here? We laugh, we have fun, we interview cool and interesting people, or pretty much anyone that I can con into coming on this shit show that I call a podcast. And today, over here, we have a legend. This one, unlike most of the time when I go searching for interviews, this one just kind of fell into the email, and it was about a record, and I didn't recognize the name for some reason. And then I looked him up and was like, oh shit, okay.
Oh
Yeah, I
shit,
know who
that
this
dude.
is. So if you're a fan of horror movies, well, you've seen this man in probably about 3,040, 347,012 movies. Um, if you've lived under a rock for the past 40-ish years, I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you a
Oh,
little bit about who he is.
oh my God. I have to introduce myself, huh? That's your job, bro. My name's Courtney Gains. I've been an actor for almost 40, I guess 40 years.
Yeah.
See me in
Listen,
such movies as Children of the Corn or The Burbs or Memphis Belle. Lately, The Wrath of Becky, and did a Grand Theft Auto Los Dos Santos Drug Wars recently, which was very cool. Played a character named Lab Rat.
um, so yes, this gentleman has been in, like he said, a myriad of things. Children of the Corn, Burbs, Back to the Future, Hard Bodies, uh,
Yes.
killer, hilarious scene in Hard Bodies, Colors, Memphis Belle, um, the Wrath of Becky movie, which is a sequel to the Becky movie,
Correct.
which are both phenomenal if you love the whole sort of splatter gore horror with a heavy dose of sarcasm and whatnot.
All I knew is if I grew this beard, a Proud Boys type character would come, and it did. So,
I I had not seen the movies. I went on a deep dive over the week, and I was like, you know
oh,
what?
cool.
I'd seen a bunch of your movies, obviously,
Sure.
but I hadn't seen Children of the Corn in like probably 30 years,
No, there you go. It'll be 40
25
next
years.
year.
So I was like, you know what? Let me rewatch it. Stephen King is one of them people who I sort of have this love hate relationship with. Like some of his movies I really love, and some of them just bore me to tears.
Yeah, not his fault though. He just writes the books.
Well,
Somebody
right,
else makes the
exactly.
movies.
So, he's one of them things. Like as far as his movies go, Salem's Lot was probably the first movie to truly ever just scare the shit out of me as a kid because Barlow was such an evil character. It was just the way they filmed that with the jump scenes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course Children of the Corn come along, and then Cujo, because growing up on a farm with dogs and everything, Cujo wasn't scary so much as it was just really realistic to us or to
Yeah,
me
it was
because
when I finally saw it, it was much better than I thought I was gonna. I was like, how they gonna keep a dog thing suspenseful? But it was great.
it was very realistic because
Yep. And Dee Wallace was great in it. So
yeah, and I've seen dogs that literally, kind of either through parvo or rabies or things that
oh
literally
wow.
will just turn into that. And
Wow.
sadly, you have to put them
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And it's always hard because as a human, you never want to harm an animal, but
Yeah.
you're not given a choice really. So,
No,
and
for sure. Some of the most tragic things growing up were having to put our dogs to sleep. I know what you're
yeah.
talking about.
Um,
Didn't
so
have to
before
shoot
we
them
get
though.
into the movie thing, I want to touch on the music thing because
Let's do that.
obviously you have the record, and he has Courtney has a really great new EP out, um, called Safe Haven. Actually, before we do that, before I forget, the very first thing I want to say, happy birthday to this gentleman. Tomorrow he turns
Oh, there you go.
57.
58, brother. 58. Thank you.
Oh, 58.
Yeah. Unless I can't
Okay.
count anymore. It's possible.
Yeah, it is. I yeah, I guess my math isn't
Well,
mathing.
it doesn't
Um,
matter either way. It's on the
yeah,
shade of old, dog.
I am not very far behind you, man. I won't say my age, but let's just say I am less than half a single digit behind you. So
There you go.
I'm pushing right behind you. So
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, man.
now that we got that out of the way, he has a great new EP called Safe Haven. It's really cool because the whole thing with Hollywood and actors being musicians, musicians being actors, it's
Here it
kind of a
comes.
long running thing. Um,
Yes.
some do it very well,
Most
some,
don't.
some not so well.
Yeah,
Um,
let's face it, most don't.
we won't name any names, but
No.
uh, it's that kind of show, but we're not going to do it. Talk about talk about the record, kind of the inspiration behind it, because you've done. I mean, this isn't your first record. You've done
No.
the Acoustic Gains record. You've done work with the Ripple Street, and
Yeah, that was my
there's
band for a
also
long
another
time.
cool project we'll get into after you talk about Safe Haven.
Sure. So, yeah, no, I mean, the one good thing about so many actors, first off, there's no love for musicians when actors try to do music. There's always plenty of musicians who do acting, and that's all fine. Nobody ever says anything about how much they suck. I'll say it. A lot of them suck,
Yeah,
but that's me. I don't give a fuck, right? So, but because they're
we
they're they're
we
big names and they're bringing in eyeballs. It doesn't matter if they suck or not. It just matters that they got eyeballs, right? I mean,
no, I mean
that's the reality of that.
we we did a show a while back about the movies that Master P has made,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
it was
tons of rappers and have gone
yeah.
into
Like,
yeah,
we
tons.
we spent a 60-minute show basically just talking about how absolutely terrible Master P's
But
movies are. And it's just like, dude,
but every
stick your
once in a
rap
while
in.
somebody like Will Smith will come through and has the sensitivity and learns the craft and does well at it.
Yeah,
But most of them are not great at all.
Billy
But
Bob
like I said,
Thornton is another one who I really enjoy both aspects of.
who's that?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh, that's not fair. The Billy Bob was an actor first. I would not call
Well,
him a
I know,
musician
but I'm
first.
just saying
But no, he's a
he's an
yeah,
example of
no.
one
Billy
who's
Bob's good at whatever. Matter of fact, there's Billy Bob. One of the first things Billy Bob ever did was this. What was the show? This show that was shot live called The Judge. It was this really low, like one of those judge shows, but it was like fake. And I played his brother. It was like one of the first things he ever did.
nice.
I was driving him home because his VW bug had broke down, and he was telling me about how he was writing this thing. He was going to be a writer and director and actor, which at the time like nobody was doing. And he was talking about this thing called Sling Blade, and I was like, "Good luck with that, buddy. Good luck." Yeah, he did all right for himself. But yeah, no,
Right?
he's serious about his music,
Yeah,
and he's done well, and he's hit the road, and he really doesn't do anything fucking half-ass, man.
yeah. No. But anyways, Safe Haven. we
Yeah. So I think I kind of got to digress. So I think to talk about this particular journey, I think it really starts in 2020, when COVID hit. And I think like everybody, it made you reflect, right? Because all of a sudden you were like, this could be it, right? Like it was like that. Like it made you think about your life and reflect on your life and what did you want to do with yourself at this point? And what really came up was I had a bunch of music I hadn't put out yet that I wanted to put out, hook or crook. And the conversation that I had that was stopping me from putting music out was mainly how expensive it is to get in the studio and record.
yeah,
Because you're not going to make a lot of money at it unless you get a label to pick your shit up, right? So
right.
that was always the conversation from like a production point of view. Like I've produced movies too. It's like, how does this cost effective? But upon that having that time, because everything slowed down, I started realizing the technology had come a long way and that you could buy pretty cheap gear now and Pro Tools exactly and Pro Tools now was like not it was like you could get it for basically you buy the gear you get like a Pro Tools thing for free. It's like it's
Mhm.
not like a big thing like it used to be in the beginning. Pro Tools cost like 20 grand, you know what I mean? It's like it's
Yeah,
come that far. So that gave me the ability to start recording, and that kind of opened the door. And that was when I put out the singles of the Acoustic Gains record, and then I also Ripple Street had come back to me and brought me some material. And we started doing some stuff with them. And then I started getting into the whole Spotify thing and seeing how that works, which now I've come out the other end and realized that's just like a fucking crock of shit. Like you need 1,000 million views and you're going to make a penny, you
right.
know? So, but at the time I sort of learned that whole game. And and then I decided to do. There was a bunch of songs I had. Three of them were originally from a movie. Well, I had written them before, but they were put in a movie called Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness that I put out. That came out in 2009. I produced and starred in that, and that had a really good live band. I mean, everything we did in that movie was live, and it was an anti-technology movie that's to me only become more true now. It was this movie so
Right.
old now; it was like done on flip phones, but everything that we
Nice.
talk about essentially has only come true times 100. I've always questioned where was technology. You're getting like on Facebook or social media for free. I was always like, well, where's the hustle here, right? Like, why are they letting you on for free? I'm like, they must be collecting data. And of course, now we all know they're collecting data. So
Right.
this record is a social commentary record. Like my last Ripple Street record was a breakup record. This is stuff that's like I've just had gripes about. Like the song Big Brother is just about, it's called, Big Brother, who knew it would become you. Basically, we're Big Brother with all our phones filming everything all the time.
Yeah.
We've become Big Brother, not like the play the play got it wrong. In the movie 1984 got it wrong. It's not them just collecting data. We're collecting data on ourselves, right? So
Yeah.
that's
We're
one.
allowing it.
Right. Another song is called The Healer, which is told from the point of view of a plastic surgeon, a narcissistic plastic surgeon. So I think that one's a lot of fun. The song called Bills in Space, which should be short for billionaires in space. And my gripe there is like I sort of think it's ridiculous. All these dudes are spending all this money in this space race to do what? To go out, I mean, I get it, going out to space is kind of fine, yeah, but like, there's plenty of shit going on here. How about we take those same genius minds, the
Right.
best minds in the world, the best minds in our country, and like solve some of our own shit? How about that? Like, how about, we solve homelessness? How about that? So there's a lot of, this is a lot of, old dude griping record, but hopefully in a fun and poignant storytelling type of way.
Right. Growing up, my number one thing, I wanted to be a rock star. That was always, what are you going to be when you grow up? I'm going to be a rock star.
Yes.
Oh, that's cute. What's your plan B? I'm going to be a rock star. There was never a plan B. I was always going to do something in music.
Nice.
My dad's been a truck driver this is his 52nd year of driving truck.
My
Tried to
brother
teach
was a
me to
truck
drive
driver.
semi, wanted nothing to do with it. Grandpa, learn to drive this tractor, wanted nothing to do with it.
Like you said, you grew up on a big farm, right?
Yeah,
So,
and I wanted
so
off
that
that
had to
farm.
seem like completely ridiculous to them.
And funny thing is, my brother stayed there, learned all of that stuff, never wanted to be a musician, ended up in a band that got signed to Roadrunner Records. And I'm over here. I have spent my whole life chasing music, and I've never been close to having a record contract. And I was like, how the fuck did that happen? Like, this kid growing up didn't give a shit about music.
Yeah.
And then at 16, his friends started a band, and I'm going to be the singer. Okay, great. At 19, he's like, hey, we just got signed to Roadrunner.
So sometimes people just fall into it, man.
Yeah, like
Sometimes
I was like, fuck you. And I was just acting up on him. I was like, it wasn't that I was angry. I was just like, what the fuck, bro? Like, I've literally been doing this for almost 20 years at that point,
It's like Salieri and Amadeus, he's like, why is this precocious little punk so talented when this is they can just and I want to be that guy. Yeah, it's understandable.
But like you said with the technology, it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Of course.
Because I mean, I've turned a giant walk-in closet into my own working studio, and
right,
I get to have really awesome podcasts and record.
Right, and there was a time that just wasn't possible, and
right.
now it is.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, or even as a teenager, laying on my bed looking at posters, because we all had walls of posters like this.
Right.
I would have never dreamed there would have been a time that I could interview Jeff Scott Soto or the guys from Night Range or the guys from Great White.
Right.
All the bands that I idolized.
Right.
And I have interviewed most of them, or the majority of them, that I've ever dreamed of doing. And, You could
Right.
have never told.
It's giving you access.
Yeah, well, you could have never told 15-year-old me that
Right.
one day I'd be sitting in my own home studio talking to a guy that I stared at posters of for hours,
Right.
hoping to be like. And it's awesome. But that double-edged sword is unfortunately everyone has access to be a musician, and
Right. So what you have now is whether it be the movie industry, because also it's easier to make, movie than ever
yeah,
before. When I started, it was
yeah,
35 millimeter film, and that shit costs some money. You
right,
know, now anybody can get a 4K camera, practically shoot it on their phone. So what you have is tons and tons of content now,
yeah,
and you're going to have some good content and some not so good content.
yeah.
And
You have
there's nobody, you're doing this on your own, right? There's nobody to tell you what to do. There's nobody to tell you whether you're doing your show well or not well or good. You
right,
just do whatever the hell you want, right? Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But it leads to a whole wide variety of content, right? And no gatekeepers. And so yeah, it's different. We're in a different age. We're in a different age. But
I
yeah, it's same thing in music. I mean, I'm shocked how much music's out there now that I'm looking at it. And not only shocked about how much music, but just even I live in Savannah, Georgia now.
okay,
And Savannah, the Southeast is very supportive musically because, like, number one, Savannah's like a tourist town.
mm-hmm.
So unlike when I played in LA, which was about flipping 5 bands a night, and your job was to get a certain amount of people in, and that's how they made their money. Now it's about you're a bar band for the night where you do 3 sets a night, 3 45-minute sets. They pay you, but you got to bring your own PA and the whole 9 yards. But like I got a group now. I got my band, the Courtney Gains group, and I'm playing bass in this band and singing. And it's given me a chance to get my shit together. Like I've been playing now 9 months steady, Weekend Warriors, playing anywhere from 2 hours from Savannah. And we're playing almost every weekend,
Nice,
and it's, 3 sets a night. That was a big jump for me. A guy who was used to
yeah,
playing maybe 1 set a night. I had to jump from, we were getting this band together, playing on a jam night, doing like 3 songs, getting our act together. We had maybe 12 songs in our pocket. And then my girlfriend started getting us gigs. And I had to jump from that to a 3 45-minute set. That was huge. That was
right,
I was over my head, but I got through it and I got better. And now we're 9 months in, and now we're ready to promote this record. And now we're ready to next year be able to go hit the road a bit. And I'm ready. Like, let's go. Like I feel like I'm getting my chops together. And that's what you got to do. You got to put in the work, right? If you're not willing to do the grind, you can't be taken seriously. You know what I mean? So
exactly,
at least that's how I feel. And I feel like, the advantage I always have is the bar is going to be very low coming in because I am an actor. So people aren't going to have much expectation of me. So that's good. So
right,
I
right.
have at least, I'm not saying like I made the greatest record, since Boston. I haven't.
No,
But what I am saying though is like I probably made a better record than most fucking actors on no budget. That's
right,
what I would say,
yeah.
you know?
I will say again, like on the aspect of the movie making thing, I like to use the line that there's a lot of wannabe Lloyd Kaufmans running around. Um,
Yes.
that
I do them. I do them. Like I get one of the things I get offered as opposed to having to audition is low budget, horror features or whatever, right?
right,
Not always horror, but often. And what I call them is I call them vanity projects because
right,
somebody who hasn't been able to really make it in the business is able to, gets enough money together though with his friends or whatever, or her friends, and then they put a project all around themselves and they put some recognizable actors around it to give it some credence. And they'll pay me well, and it's a bit of a learning curve for them. They get to work with a professional actor and stuff, and I get to deal with them not being totally knowing what they're doing.
right.
But I do the best I can under those circumstances.
Yeah,
And sometimes something will come out great. A lot of times they never see the light of day. You just never know
yeah,
what's going to happen. But it's because, like you said, it's financially accessible to take a shot. And independent filmmaking, I've produced films. I mean, independent filmmaking is tough, tough, tough.
yeah.
I mean, not just to make the project and get it out, but then to find a decent distribution deal to get it seen is tough, tough, tough. And I've also dealt with that with music, right? I don't know the music industry, like I know the film industry. And that's why this time, at least, I'm feeling very fortunate that Fake Fang Records, which is a local Savannah record label, has picked it up. I got at least somebody who's taking a chance and helping me out and getting it out there. That's a big step in the right direction. Is also going to help us in the booking world and be able to get out there a little bit. So every time you get a little bit of help, it goes a long way. But you got to be ready for it, right? You got to be ready
Yeah.
for when the opportunity strikes, and that's what I've been preparing for the last 9 months. So
Nice.
that's what's up.
Um, I want to touch on Dreams in the Witch House.
Now you're
I,
talking a very high level produced
yeah.
major pro record. Yeah, but go you talk about it, I'll tell you a bit about it.
No, one of the things I noticed, I didn't know about it before I read your bio, and when I noticed it, one of the first things that jumped out at me is Chris Laney was involved, and I'm a huge fan of Chris's, not only his music but his production stuff.
Oh man,
In the
he's
glam
the
rock world, Chris has done just
dude. His mixes. I mean, he mixed my voice better than anybody's ever mixed my voice.
yeah.
I didn't go to him on this record because I just didn't want to like I didn't I just didn't have the money to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's
Though
very high up.
he might have done me a solid. I didn't want to call him the favor on this one, but that guy Mike Gallagher's guy who produced the record.
Mm-hmm.
He's an interesting guy. He's an actor. He hasn't been acting for a lot of years, but he did like Broadway, and he did in Norway and all that. In the Netherlands, he did like Broadway shows for like 8 years. Singer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how him and Laney got hooked up, and that's his connection over there. But he brought in all these, obviously Doug Blair and Bruce Kulick and all these monster, metal dudes into a metal rock opera. But like he got in the studio and did it right. I mean, but with these great guys. But the songs are also written by Mike Gallagher, and they're very good. But yeah, Laney, no one's ever mixed my voice better than that. And I say this, and this is maybe one day it'll get released. So the last song, there's a sort of like an acoustic version with me, just me on vocal, and then there's a version with me and John Frank from Children of the Corn and like that. It's a bigger rock version,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a version of just me that they won't that Mike Gallagher hasn't released that I keep begging him to let come out because it's the best I've ever sounded, but he hasn't done it yet. I hope someday it gets released because it's I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it.
So is that different than the Sanitarium version that's on the Bandcamp?
Correct.
Okay.
It's basically that rock version without all the other voices, just me on the rock.
Oh,
And I
okay.
get to really rock out, and it's really cool. I hope someday he either lets me release it or he releases it. He's yet to do it though.
Yeah, like I've been a fan of Chris for a really
Awesome.
long time. Like
Awesome.
he's hard rock and glam rock and a lot of the Swedish.
Yeah, I'd love for that. I'd love to have the dough to have that guy produce a record for me.
Yeah,
He's awesome.
He's one of them names. Unless you're really into the genre, you don't hear the name a lot.
Right.
But he's one of them guys. He's
well,
very, very good
I'm glad to hear you know who he is, and I'm glad to hear you're bringing him up because he definitely deserves it. He's very talented.
Yeah, and that's what I said when I seen his name. Even before I listened to the record, when I seen his name, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be really good." Because
it's amazing. They're trying to make a movie and ultimately do a theater version of it too. I which I'm involved in at this point, and I just keep waiting for the call because it would be such a cool project to be involved in. Yeah, so if anybody has never heard of Dreams of the Witch House, the rock opera, check it out. You won't be disappointed. It's dope.
Yeah, it is a great record. It's if you're into the whole concept record thing or the opera or rock opera type of things, this is really well done. I'm a huge fan of stuff like that. And
if you like H.P. Lovecraft, this is like so up your alley. It's not even funny. So there's the actual two. There's actual two record vinyl that's still out there, I think, and then there's a bunch of these little spin-offs, which is when I came in. That's about five different songs. So It's a whole thing going on there. It's pretty awesome.
So now that we've got that one out of the way, talk about the work you did with Bad Brains, because I couldn't find much about that, but I'm a huge Bad Brains fan. And
what are we talking about? I'm not sure what we're talking about.
It said in your bio that you've done work with Slash, Bruce Kulick, and Bad Brains.
I don't know the Bad Brains. I didn't see that on there. That's on there because I got nothing to say about that.
Yeah, it said Bad Brains, and I was like, "Oh, I love Bad Brains."
Sorry, I don't know how that's on there. I got to work with Slash way back in the day with a song called Journeyman that did well in college radio and just got picked up in a movie I did called My Redneck Neighbors. And I say, who do you think played the redneck?
Yeah,
Um,
I saw that was coming out, but it's I don't think it's been
it's
released
a
yet.
pretty zany indie
Yeah,
comedy. I don't know. I still haven't seen it fully done. I don't know what to think. But it was fun making it. But it's nice that song keeps finding life. It keeps getting picked back up. But yeah, so how that song happened. So this part of my music act, I tell this story before I play the song now. So my girlfriend and Matt Sarm's girlfriend were best friends back in the 90s. And
nice.
and I got to meet Matt Sarm, drummer from Guns, who's just an amazing drummer,
Yeah,
and the Cult and all that. And I played a song for him. I played that song for him, Journeyman, and he liked it. And he asked if I wanted to record it. And I was like, yeah. And so I put a band together and we recorded it up at his house, and it came out great. But it needed like a really awesome blues rock lead on it.
hmm
Got lucky, and Slash needed to go up there to record something, and Matt asked him if he would do it, and he said yes.
nice.
And it was just a surreal experience to watch Slash work. And he hung out for I heard he likes that bottle of Jack when he was recording. And I brought him a big bottle of Jack, and I thanked him for being there. And he did a great job. And he when he left, Matt said, if he didn't like the song, you'd have done one pass and he would have left. So that was and that's what really took the song over the top.
Yeah,
And but yeah, it's still that came out in the 90s, and it's still finding legs today. It's probably my most well produced, most having Matt Sturm as a producer on it, making
right.
judgment calls. It's like having a director in a film, a good
Right.
director. It's going to make a huge difference, and it did.
It does.
And I thank Matt and I thank Slash for doing it. It was like an amazing experience.
So,
You can check it out on. People don't believe me. I say go online. You can find the song on Facebook, and
right.
I mean on YouTube, and you can find it on my Spotify. It's there. You'll know once you hear it. You'll know it's Slash as soon as you hear it.
Yeah, it's
Unmistakable.
the the great thing about, or I don't know if I want to say the great thing now. I the unique thing, I guess, about Guns N' Roses. You hear people talk about Guns N' Roses, and they always talk about Axl's voice
Yeah.
being Axl's voice is Guns N' Roses, but Axl's voice wasn't really Guns N' Roses to me. To me, when I hear Guns N' Roses, there's two unique things that stand out for them. One is Slash's guitar play. His tone is totally unique to Slash.
Oh
The
yeah.
other thing is Duff's bass playing. When
Yeah.
you hear Duff's bass playing, whether it's on the newest Ozzy record, whether it's on Guns N' Roses, whether it's on his solo record, you can instantly recognize Duff's bass tone.
And he did a lot of writing, and that's
Right.
that's the thing that gets underestimated a lot of times too, is sometimes like the rhythm guitar player, the bass player are the guys that are not the shred masters, but they're the guys who write. They're the
Right.
guys then you need that lead guy to go over the top of it, absolutely, or you need a great vocal. But if you don't got any good songs, forget it. Guns just put out a new song recently.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Probably the
And
best thing
that's
they put out in years.
and that was always my argument when people say, well, Axl's voice is Guns N' Roses. I was like, well, is it really? Because after Duff and Slash left,
Right.
what did Guns N' Roses do? They still had Axl, but
Right.
they
It's
were a
all
shell
those.
of
It's
themselves until Slash and Duff came back.
right, but you could say the same thing though that they couldn't. He did Velvet Revolver and all that, but like they weren't anything without him either. I mean, it's always that volatile combination of
Yeah.
usually a lead guitar player and a vocalist that somehow makes this magic. Yeah, it's very few people are able to break away from each other and succeed
Yeah.
on their own. It's very very rare.
Yeah. Especially in that, Appetite for Destruction was such a lightning in the bottle type of moment. Like
Yeah,
it was just one of them records that
my girl's a huge Guns N' Roses fan, and so I've watched a lot of docus now and things, and what's really remarkable is you look at how many, when you really look at how long they were, together and how few records they put out, and yet how much of an impact it had, and how much you still
right.
hear one of their songs on the radio every day. You almost can't
Yeah.
miss it. That it's that's what's remarkable to me. It's like, like I've maybe done 100 projects or something, right? But maybe you can only really talk about 5 of them that everybody knows, or 6 or something, maybe 6 or 7 or whatever. And that's what these guys did. They made a few records, but boy, when they made those records, before you
Yeah,
know it, they're selling out, Brazil. Matt Sorum telling me his first gig was in Brazil in front of 100,000 people. You're just
yeah.
like, holy Christ.
Rock and Reel was
Oh my
completely
God.
insane. Like I
He told me a story that right like a little before he went out, actually said, "Oh, by the way, you have like a 45-minute drum solo." And it's like, I mean, is that cold or what?
yeah, like we 2021, I think, right before the COVID thing really kind of hit big, or 2020
Mm-hmm.
maybe. We
2020,
saw
yeah.
we saw Sons of Apollo. It was my first time getting to see Jeff Scott Soto sing, but of course, it's also Mike Portnoy and Billy Sheehan and Bumblefoot and Derek Sherinian. So it's like these 5 massively talented musicians, and Billy starts his bass solo. And Billy, during the show, we did like this 9-minute bass solo. And about 3.5 minutes into the bass solo, we're standing at the front of the stage and we're just kind of like, yeah, okay, we get it, asshole. You can play bass. Like,
Right,
because Billy's
right.
up there just showing off, man. And we're like, yeah, we get it. You can play bass. And then, of course, Billy finishes, and then Portnoy does his drum solo. And we're just kind of like standing there, and we're like, how do people get this fucking talented, man? Like, it's not
Yep.
fair that. And I realize that it's dedication and decades of practice
Well,
and
and gigging, right? I
yeah,
mean, and gigging.
and all of that, and
The band can only get so good rehearsing, and then you got to go gig, and that's what that's what my drummer on this project I'm on. His name's Christopher Angeletti. He's a very good drummer from Connecticut. He hates rehearsing. He's always like, let's just gig. We'll get better when we gig. And there's some truth though. Sometimes we have to rehearse some. We have to work on some things, but ultimately, he's right. The more we gig, the better we get.
yeah. Um,
But when
Go ahead.
well, we were talking about, you got me thinking about the Bad Brains thing. Were you talking about the guitar player from Bad Religion? Is that what you were talking about?
Maybe that's what they meant, but it actually said bad brains
Oh no.
in the thing.
Okay.
It literally says bad brains, and that's why I was
Uh
kind of like, that's
I didn't
HR,
catch that.
and
I didn't catch that. Okay.
yeah, that's why I was like, that's HR and them guys, and my old band actually did shows with them, and I
Oh,
love
okay.
those
Well,
guys.
good thing I didn't like live things. You would eventually kind of figured out I was talking shit. So
So maybe it's a misprint, and it's supposed to,
it's supposed to
you
be
know,
Bad Religion.
yeah, it's supposed to be bad religion.
Yeah.
Um, but so I want to talk about the Becky movies.
Yeah.
Have you seen the finished movies?
Yeah. I didn't get to see it in a theater, unfortunately. It got in South by Southwest, but the
Yeah,
bastards were too cheap to get me to fly me out, so I didn't go.
I love a good. I love a horror movie that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Too seriously, right?
Um, Now the first one, I love the aspect of Kevin James basically playing
A
a
neo-Nazi.
neo-Nazi, which
Yeah.
is such the complete opposite end of the spectrum from what
Right.
Kevin normally does, and he did
Right.
it really well.
Right. And
Um,
this time you got Sean Scott Williams doing it.
and but what made it great is, even as serious as that movie was, the kill shots and the sort of gore of it was really done well, but it was again very tongue in cheek. But in this one, in the Wrath of Becky, it was just really kind of, it was such a, again, it was such a great example of, you can do a slasher type movie or horror movie, whatever you want to call it, but still kind of have a sense of humor about it. And some of the scenes, like the ending scene with Sean, where he steps into the bear traps. When he stepped into the first one, I was like, I knew that was coming. Like when she stopped in front of the tree, I was like, oh, there's a bear trap there. So that one was kind of like, okay. But when he stepped in the second one, it was like, oh shit. And then my first thought was she's gonna grab the gun and shoot him. And then he falls into the bear trap, and I was like, I couldn't help but be like, fuck yeah. Like it was such a great sequence,
Yeah. Yeah.
the way it was filmed and then it jumps forward to, the CIA thing, and then her coming up behind the one, with the rocket launcher. Like, wait, where the fuck she get a rocket launcher from? And,
Yeah.
so it I, again, I want to say it's a really great film, and I loved your role. Again, a great sequence of, the part where, you come out of the barn with the smoke, and then they sort of show her coming out with the tractor, but then they kind of rewind it, and then you do the whole thing. I've got a wife and kid, and she's like, she starts to feel sympathy for you, but then you're like, "What's your son's name?" And you're like, Adolf, and she's like, "You fucking kidding me?" She just
Yeah.
like
It's a
out.
good turn. It's a real good
Oh,
turn.
it was done so well, man. Like for a movie that I don't think was intended to be like a big budget per se.
No,
Um,
it's not a huge budget movie, but they were very smart with
yeah, yeah,
give the directors a lot of kudos for figuring out what they wanted to do. They storyboarded everything. They knew what they wanted, and they got it shot for shot. And the DP did a great job. And so a lot of good elements came together to make it a good film, and it's getting a real good response.
yeah. Like I love when I can watch a film and there's almost nothing I can pick out about the film that was a glaring error. Like in this one, the biggest glaring error I noticed was in the first movie, Diego was a cane corso, and in this one,
Different
he was a
dog.
mastiff.
Ah, interesting.
So that was like the biggest thing I noticed. I
I
was like,
hadn't
"Oh, they
seen the
got the
first, so
dog
I
breed
didn't know
wrong."
that. That's
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah. Like they make a point in the first one that it's a cane corso,
Uh-huh.
like because apparently it's one of the only dogs Kevin James is afraid of. So in the new one, when you see the dog, you're immediately like, they got the dog breed wrong. This is gonna suck. But then it really is a good film. Like that's
That's interesting.
like the only thing in the movie that I noticed that wasn't
Right.
obvious or
Right.
didn't
Right.
have
Right.
continuity.
Yeah, they're gonna do a sequel. They're gonna do I think they're
Yeah,
gonna do a third. So they're gonna do a trilogy.
I'm interested in seeing it too. Like now that I've seen them, I'm like, you know what, I really like these because it almost, without having Danny Trejo in it, it almost kind of has that machete type of
Yes, yes,
vibe,
yes. That's
like
fair enough.
yeah, like it just
Maybe he'll be in the third one.
that would that would make like I don't know, like I could totally write that. Like the whole key thing, the whole key thing being, it ends up being in Mexico somewhere and she's chased by this cartel group led by Danny Trejo. It seems like a fitting, it seems like a fitting type of thing, it's just like something Danny would do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, if we can get over to this, done with this freaking strike, then maybe we can go back to making some movies.
Yeah. And I kind of want to touch on that a little bit.
Let's do it.
Kind of explain, I guess, in layman terms. I mean, other than the studios are greedy bastards and you guys deserve to make a living. I mean, that's sort of the.
Is there anything else though? I mean, really?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, how we got here? Is that what you're trying to get to?
Yeah, like it seems like such a simple thing, but again, it just boils down to greed. Like I don't.
Well, so I had a podcast called the Outlander Hour several years back. I had sort of opportunity, thought this was going to spin off into something real, and then it didn't happen. But so we did, I don't know, 6, 8 episodes or something. And that was, I'm talking like 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago. And I wanted to talk about this stuff, and I'd get people on, and they wouldn't want to talk about it. They would all run away from like, some crew person on some HBO show working fucking 18 hours a day, and everybody in the crew is sick. They wouldn't want to talk about that, none of that stuff. Yeah. And want to talk about actors and how bad residuals were getting and this and that and the other. I saw the writing on the wall, and in 2017 was one of my worst years. And I was like, if I don't get out of LA soon, when I get my pension, I'm not going to have enough money to buy a house or whatever. So I bailed in 2018, and it was the right move. Opened myself up to the Southeast market, the Atlanta market,
Mm-hmm.
and it's worked. So now I'm working the Atlanta market, I'm working the LA market. I'm only an hour and a half from New York. Becky was shot in New Jersey. And then the GTA thing was shot at Rockstar in New York, out in Long Island. So like I'm hitting all the markets now, so it's expanding my opportunities. But I could see that pasty white boys at 50 was not going to exactly be the hot market in Los Angeles. And I was right. Everybody I know who stayed, who was kind of on my level, hasn't done squat. So I got out at the right time, and then living where a place I can afford to live, where LA is just ridiculous. The rents. If you buy a house, the taxes alone will kill you. You know, so a lot of people got out after the pandemic, or at least moved outside the city. I kind of like I said, I'm glad I got out of there before then. But so, like I said, I saw this all coming a long time ago. It's just interesting to really be here now and see this. Basically, I mean, the middle class actor, if there's not some kind of sufficient deal made here, there is going to be no middle class actor anymore. I mean, basically, a guy like me, survives when it's slow off of residuals, checks that come in from stuff being on TV and like that. And so what's happening now, though, of course, is since cable's starting to die and streaming starting to go up, it's really an excellent comparison would be the record business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same thing that happened to record business when Napster came into being and all that. Once it went digital, now people are buying a song for 99 cents or whatever. They're no longer making CDs for $1 and selling them for $15.99. The golden goose was done. And now, bands make their money pretty much on the road, not through record sales anymore, and again, with the Spotify's and all this, it's very hard. You're not making your living out of that anymore. You're making a living on the road and selling swag and like that. So basically, so what the music industry did at that time, seeing what was happening, is they pivoted to buying up catalogs. Like they bought, if you see the Warner Brothers building, where I used to live, like at Toluca Lake, you'll see it says Warner Brothers, Rhino, Atlantic, all these big ones. And then they bought a bunch of other ones like Ryko and places like that as well. They bought up their entire catalogs. And how they make their money now is not on record sales. They make their money on putting songs in commercials, putting songs in television shows, putting songs in movies. And then people like my son's generation would hear a song from Journey for the first time in some movie and go, "Who's that? That's really good." And then they go discover Journey and then buy some songs.
Right.
Like that's how it works now. And basically that same problem has finally caught up to the movie business.
Yeah.
So the question is going to so residual income is really the big issue, and it's not just the studios in Los Angeles and Southern California that have now gotten to the streaming service, but it's the industry coming from Northern California, the techs, right? The Netflix, the Hulus, the Amazons. They don't know or don't want to know or don't give a rat's about how it used to be done in SoCal. This is how the tech industry handles their business, and they're refusing to let anyone see what shows get eyeballs and what shows don't. And so it's like they call it the black box. And so there's just no way to quantify success in residual income. So either they're going to have to bump up the pay a lot, which they're not willing to do right now. They're offering 5%, and we're asking for 11%,
right,
which is a huge jump. Or we want 2%. They're asking for 2% of the monthly sale, the monthly. You buy a subscription, and they've also said no to that. So basically, that middle ground where actors have made some money is the rug is getting pulled out. And if it doesn't get solved, anybody as a middle class young actor that came up like I did in their 20s and 30s are going to have a side hustle because they are not going to make enough to live on. So that's where we're at, man, and that's where the writers are at, and it's tough stuff. It's tough stuff, and I don't know if I don't know what the outcome is going to be at this point. But I've been like I said, I've been seeing this issue coming for a long time, and the AI thing too. I saw that coming for a long time too.
Yeah.
But really, the residuals is really, yeah, using your likeness. Obviously, if someone wants to use my likeness in their film, they got to pay me. That's or my
Right.
voice or anything else. That's simple enough. They should pay
Yeah.
you. So
I mean, it seems like such a common sense thing, but it's literally like we've reached this age of almost unreason where common sense is just completely. It's like
well, I mean,
it's like
I
a
agree,
fucking
I agree. There's
unicorn.
common sense, but if you, I've watched a lot of stuff on YouTube about this, newscasts and this and that, and there's not one person. I told you the things that were wrong, and that's what all the experts can tell you too. But not one person has offered an actual solution.
Right.
Not one, which tells me that this isn't an easy solution, right? If no one's,
Right.
I mean, like I said, I kind of offered a couple. Like one is, find a way to quantify the eyeballs. The other one is give us a pay raise. The other one is give us subscription fee based stuff. And so far the answer has been no. So there's at this point there's no real solution. But like I said, it's the same thing that happened in the record business, and that problem never got solved.
Right.
Did it? No, it never got solved. Right?
No,
No,
that's
the record business has never been the same since everything went digital. So that's why I say to myself, is that what's are we at the same are we at the same point? The difference, of course, is that we have unions who are fighting for our rights, and the record business is each band for themselves, right? So they
right.
didn't have a union to fight for things, and maybe that'll be the difference. I don't know.
I I hope it gets resolved quickly, but mostly I hope you guys get a very fair and equitable
Yeah, we'll see. I
deal,
mean,
because it just
I think they saw this coming. I think they saw this fight coming,
yeah,
and I think they did this when I talked about the record labels catalog. I think there was like for the last 5 years, they've been greenlighting tons and tons of projects, so they have tons of material to release right now. So
yeah,
they're not. I don't feel that they're sweating it right now. The actors
yeah,
could stay out of work for a while, and they could still keep releasing new material. So now they can't put out some of the shows that they're hot shows like Stranger. They can't do the next season of Stranger Things or something. That's
right.
on hold. But whatever they do have, which I imagine they've amassed a lot of material, they can keep putting stuff out for quite a while. So the only way I think that they would be able to feel the sting would take the audience saying, okay, we don't like this. Like you're saying, like I hope actors get equity, and we're going to pull our subscriptions until you guys pay these guys
Yeah,
right.
I'm
But you can, as an actor, we can't rely on the audience to do that. But I think that
right.
would be the way the audience can make their money. Money talks and bullshit walks, right? If they're not pulling their
Right.
money out, then what do they care,
Yeah,
right?
that's
What do the big streaming
it's
services give a shit? As long as they're still paying, that's all that matters.
yeah. It's it's kind of the same way I hear people talk about the whole gas thing. Well, we're gonna boycott gas. Really? Do you really think enough Americans are just not gonna drive
Nope.
to drive down the price of gas? Like, come on, dude. There's oil reserves for months and years. A 1 day boycott or a 2 day boycott is not going to hurt the oil companies. Like, you're going about it ass backwards on that aspect of it. It's just like you're not even in the universe of the right solution for that. Like,
No.
you know,
Until we understand we're fully dependent and I would say addicted on oil, we you can't even begin the conversation. I mean it's something that's like we live, it's like breathing for us,
yeah.
Gotta have it.
So, where do people find your
Yeah,
music, your movie stuff, your web
good. So
pages, any
yes,
information
again,
about you?
yeah, man, circling back to the record. So Courtney Gains Safe Haven's coming out October 2nd. And how you get this thing is you get it on fakefangrecords.com. It's not going through any streaming services or any of that stuff this time. We're cutting that out. And basically you can go on there and you can listen to the record 3 times, every song 3 times for free. And after that, you either got to buy the download, or we're also making CDs, a limited run of CDs, and also going to do a limited run of signing some of those too. So there's that. So we're going old school and actually making CDs. But yeah, you can't buy a single. You got to buy the whole record, 6-song record, or the CD. So that's how we're gonna run this one. A little different, a little more real independent style, which I like. Because like I said, the streaming services they ain't doing nothing for me. So yeah, fakefangrecords.com is where you can find it, coming out October 2nd. And the rest of the other stuff, yeah, you can find me on streaming, on all the streaming, Spotify and all that, and all the iTunes and all that. I got a bunch of stuff up on there, and then you can find me. My band has a Facebook, the Courtney Gains group. Courtney Gains group.
Yeah,
you can definitely tune in there, find out what's going on. Certainly see where we're playing, and we're definitely going to be going out and hitting the road some in the new year. So if you want to find out if we're going to come anywhere near you. And it's also the touring is also timing in. Next year is the 40th anniversary of Children of the Corn.
Yeah,
so that's kind of timing.
You guys are going to be doing a whole.
Yeah, there's some the idea is there's some independent theaters that they get a print of Corn, and we can show Corn and do a Q&A and play the band and do a VIP meet and greet and that kind of thing. So there's going to be some of that in the works as well. So trying to piggyback that all together and have some fun with that, being that it's I've been doing conventions for a long time. I think this is it for me. I'm going to do this last run here for the 40th, and maybe at least, who knows, maybe the 45th I'll feel different, but I've been doing it a long time. I'm ready to take a break. So we're going to do a run here and probably call it a day. So that's what's happening with that. So again, if you find my Facebook page, Courtney Gains, you'll find out where conventions and this and that are going on. And if you get my Courtney Gains group page, you find out where the band stuff's going on and like that. So that's how you find me. Keep in touch.
So like the gentleman said, you lazy bums need to go out and buy these. They exist.
Yeah, if you like CDs, we're going to have them. You can do the digital download too, but if you like CDs and if you want to sign one, they're going to be there. So that's going to be cool. And you're probably going to be like $8 for a 6-song EP. That's not bad.
No,
artwork's going to be really dope.
Media. Like I love the convenience of being able to put it on my phone and listen to it in the car. But at the same time, there's still the old school me that grew up listening, in front of my uncle's Kenwood stereo with the speakers that were as big as me and the trash can headphones that were as big as my head.
If we get it enough going, maybe the next record, this and that, I'd love to, get some vinyl going. We're just not on that. We're just not convinced we can make our money back on that right now. But down the road, I would love to do a vinyl. That would be a dream.
Yeah. Vinyl's a tricky thing, man. Like I see everyone buying it and doing it, but at the same time, much like the movie thing, there's a lot of processes that go into it.
It's expensive, and you can only make so much limited run. So you have to say to yourself, okay, if I'm making freaking 500 records, can I sell them? And how long is that going to take me to sell? So we're not there yet, but that's on the next round, hopefully.
Yeah,
we finally get some vinyl.
So we're going to wrap this up. We're going to let this gentleman get on because I know he has a ton of other things going on as well while he's doing this whole media blitz for this. This is Courtney Gains, Malachi from Children of the Corn, and so many other great movies. Look up his IMDb. Yeah,
IMDb. Yeah,
IMDb. I always get that screwed up. There's so much to see on there. Like I said, Children of the Corn, The Burbs, Back to the Future, Hard Bodies, Colors, Memphis Belle. There's like 130 acting credits on there. TV shows of every kind. So many killer roles. I highly recommend the Becky movies. Also, the Dorm Days. I went back and I watched those.
I helped produce that as well. That was fun.
Yeah, I didn't touch on that one, but there's 3 of those in the series. There's Dorm Days 2, and there's Transylvania, or however you say that title.
There's been some talk about 4th where they might bring me back, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. So anyways, there's those ones. There's so many more. Thank you so much for doing this. It was an absolute honor to have you on here and to get to speak to another person that just, I loved growing up, and I've seen so many of your movies and acting roles that, like I said, when the CD come in, my brain didn't kick in, like the name didn't register, and then when I looked it up, I was like, oh shit, okay, I know what that is. Like,
well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for promoting the record. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was absolutely an honor. As well, you know how we end this. Be well, treat each other with kindness, and remember, no matter what you're going through, music heals.
Right on. Love that.